event tonight, you will see 5 brave, misguided writer types battling it out for short fiction supremacy. Literary Upstart! Scout of the people, Mr. Benjamin Dolson!
Just after Vesper prayers, our scouts return wearing grim and serious looks. One of them is wounded through the waist with our enemy's arrow and must be carried by his brothers. It does not take the scout's report to foretell our calamity. From my assigned turret, I observe an endless multitude consisting of Saracens, Turks, Asmites, Arabs, Kurds, Agolani, Persians, and many other peoples whom I cannot name. Their number is unfathomable in all of Europe. We are told that the Agolani wear iron armor upon their whole man, even on their horses, and fear neither sword, nor arrow, nor lance. We are told that the Saracens, upon discovering a priest leading the people at Mass in Edessa, martyred him on the altar and drank of the blood. We are told that our enemy desires to lead us away in ropes and scatter the people of Christ among the pagans. The bishop has called us to a fast, lasting 5 days, after which we will go and meet our enemy beyond the gates. We have held Antioch only 3 days, having taken it from the Turks, who we are told put under severe duress our brothers in Christ as they journeyed through Arabia and route to Jerusalem. My tentmate, Raymond, has discovered the tobacco pipe and the satchel of the Turk who previously occupied this turret. Raymond is a Gaul. We communicate tenuously in vulgar Latin. When he lights the Turk's pipe and holds it in the Turkish fashion, we call him Sultan Raymond and cross ourselves profusely, as though to ward off his pagan spirit. I am Henri of Normandy, a foot soldier in the army of the Triune Lord. I have journeyed this far and will journey further yet to Jerusalem to fulfill my vows to the Holy Roman Church and to receive penance for sin that is not mine, but for which I am the vessel. My son bears the burden of this sin, like an unfortunate inheritance accepted without choice. He is afflicted with fits. Among the people, it is called the falling sickness. He is considered like a leper, though his affliction is not of the flesh. Women of childbearing years will not enter our home. I am forbidden from holding positions of authority. Sometimes we find him curled like a newborn calf, with his head thrown back in a ghastly manner. His tongue fills his throat, and my wife must retrieve it to prevent his choking. He often comes to breakfast with abrasions suffered the night before. When the fits first began, we prayed for healing and petitioned the church for help. The priest offered a blessed iron ring from Rome, which provided some relief, but ultimately we were told that God does not heal sin until it is first forgiven. My wife, in her latest letter, informed me that my son is proving as capable as I with the land. Together, they have already harvested the summer's barley, oats, and peas. From a young age, he assisted me with the sheep, driving them from cote to field and back. He's 12 now. He has long limbs and a strong mind, though he'll never marry, unless it is to someone much below him. What woman would volunteer for such a burden? My son has told me that he is warned by the elements immediately before one of his fits. The sun becomes unbearably near. The sounds of the earth fill his ears like drowning. When this happens, he knows to find a private place to wait for what is coming. At the end of each of her letters, my wife reminds me to commit prayers daily to St. Valentine, the patron saint of those with falling sickness, of whom a crude marble statue stands in the corner of our home. The physician instructed an herbal mixture of valerian, mugwort, mistletoe, belladonna, foxglove, bitter orange, and Peruvian bark. We cannot afford bloodletting. Unbeknownst to me, my wife took him to the gypsy oracle, who claimed that the fits were related to the position of the moon. Now at night, when the moon appears, I think of my son and worry. When my wife took him a second time and reported to me the oracle's words, I told her to stop her mouth of such blasphemy, lest she bring more grief to an already grieving household. She has always been more lenient than I with such things. Upon my departure, she wondered aloud if it is not simply the disposition of the Lord that has placed this burden on our son. Who can know the ways of the Most High, she said, quoting the psalmist. What he wills, I responded. During the night, our enemy awakens us with an astonishing noise made with much chattering, whistling, and shouting at the top of their voices. Then they shower our night sentries with arrows and rocks. In response, the bishop assembles us and leads us in a Maccabean war psalm, which many of the brothers sing in such a low spirit that it discourages the rest of us. Raymond and I return to our tent, though neither of us expects to sleep. The hunger of the fast is forgotten in sleep, but one's first thoughts each morning are of nourishment. Even before our fast, there was a great hunger. A horse's head without its tongue, sold for 30 denarius, the intestines of a goat for 20. At least now our hunger has God's favor. As we're preparing our tent door to keep away the things that crawl along the earth, Raymond complains, again, that I called out loudly in my sleep. I tell him I am praying. It does not sound like any prayer, he says. I tell him that as a Gaul, he wouldn't understand the tongue, to which he responds that as a Christian, he understands at least that it is not prayer. Often in the mornings after Mass, Raymond will yawn loudly and boast to the other foot soldiers that he is now fasting with both food and sleep, thanks to me. They have come to regard me with suspicion. What they know of my son's affliction, which is very little, does not help. Among them, I am known as the man whose thoughts are like anchors. It's true that my mind is not always with my hands. I am ashamed, of course. What some say, that in all of Arabia one can scarcely endure the sun, is false. For night here is like our western winter. Neither my feet nor my shoulders have adequate cover. Days pass like clouds. None of us brothers have our full wits about us. We are like goats dazed after being struck across the head before slaughter. Brothers have had visions of Christ, of the Virgin, of saints mounting white horses in preparation for battle. There have been reports of earthquakes. Yesterday, many hundreds of us witnessed a prodigy in the sky in the shape of a sword. Because I know how to manage animals, I am asked to prepare the cavalry. Many of the horses are unfit for battle, having suffered injuries during earlier campaigns. Our poorest knights cannot afford to replace their horses, and so I go about preparing oxen for mounting. The morning of the battle, when the desert dusk is still settled with dew, we take communion and march in procession behind the bishop to Mass. Then we form 6 lines and prepare for the city gates to be opened. Behind each line, I arrange the dogs and sheep, which I have prepared as beasts of burden for lack of camels. Raymond, too busy his hands, volunteers to assist me by dressing our animals with our standard bearing the Lord's cross. Our clerics sprinkle our path with holy water. We have armed even our women with stones and fire, should the enemy penetrate the walls. Large black flies come and go with leisure from the heads of horses. I know that my axe is sharpened because its edge raises a faint layer from my forearm. My wife, upon visiting the oracle the second time, reported to me that, according to the oracle, those with falling sickness are prophets, and during their fits they can see into the past, the future, and the unknown parts of the present. When I asked him, my son told me that sometimes this is true, that he has visions, but mostly, he said, it is like blinking and then waking up full of terror and anguish. Our lines are formed now. Each man holds his weapon before him. Soon the city gates will be flung open, and we will storm our enemy and face the thing that waits for us. Soon we will clang our swords and shields like cymbals, and there will be a certain unity among us. Soon arrows and javelins will darken the elements, and the clash of our weapons will echo to the heavens. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen,
misidentified it as suffer the people, and then one of the judges, she thought it was foster the people, the band. She had like a 30-second reassessment, and we missed the first word of the story. Sorry. So this was, in a way, it's a difficult and very brave thing to do in a competition like this, which is to read a serious story, particularly following a comic story. And one of the judges, who didn't get a chance to read it on the page, said that she thought, she wasn't sure for the first paragraph or two whether it was a highly ironic treatment of this world or straightforward. So she wobbled a little bit getting into the story, but I should say that probably you should give just a quarter of a round of applause for reading a serious story. Do it quick, and then I'll keep talking. Because it's hard. When you read pieces and there's no comedy, it's difficult to pick up feedback from the audience because the rapt attention is the same thing as indifference. So it's hard to know what to do with them. The judges enjoyed the father-son relationship particularly and thought some of the best writing in the story came in the parts where the narrator discussed his son. One judge wondered, when you go for a story like this, when you're 1,000 years in the past in the Crusades, whether the point of the story is to somehow allegorically pull you into the present, or whether it stays in the past. One of the judges believed, to his dying day, that this is a hard and fast story about Obama's endorsement of gay marriage. And that's all it ever was. And the other judges we stopped trying to dissuade him. In the end, it was, the judges enjoyed the language, felt like it was really skillfully done, and that it accurately conveyed this time and place, and so that's Benjamin's story, Scattered the People.